Hello.
Hello.
Looking for our minute stock here. Hi, Christine.
Hello.
How was Vancouver?
Oh, Vancouver was nice.
And
Een keer doen die.
Yeah, man. Give an update on the talk.
Yeah,
As
that's kind of
well.
what I was thinking.
This.
I'm just trying to see. I'm in the wrong document. Okay, hold on.
hey guys,
Hello.
Hi. Come on, people. Trying to find the right document for the minutes and stuff.
Are you looking for the
No,
agenda?
yeah,
I think this is it.
no, I'm just looking, I'm looking for the minutes doc, that's all. And I found it. Okay,
I did. Okay.
yeah. We're just in the regular. The regular best practice minutes doc here, but we don't have a section yet, and probably I should have done that before this call. But here we go. I'm just gonna add this to the beginning of the document. So give me 1 second. This is 2023 05/18. Okay. And gray out everybody. Right. So people who are here can mark themselves as here. I think that's right. Okay. And then as far as the agenda goes, report from Vancouver. If I can spell Vancouver. And kind of next steps, status, etc. And I think Christine also, I think you indicated that there was a pull request that you were going to do, and maybe is there something that we can review?
No, I didn't get to it.
Okay.
I was hoping to do it this morning, but didn't get to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Vancouver.
Yeah. So I did the talk on Thursday, and the structure was mainly, I ended up talking quite a bit about Legidify and Scorecard, but basically also showed the new site, or the new one that you just kind of like put up, and just spoke about the structure. Was just talking about why we needed GitHub security, and just like laying the foundations there, and then just walking through the different pieces of why it's important to actually go through this, and then spoke about a little bit about OpenSSF, the best practices working group, and also dove into the SCM guide work, and then also towards the end did a little demo about Legidify and Scorecard, a very quick demo to just show how they work and what the types of information that you can get out of it. And then talked about that you can actually extend this to other SCMs, but then also mentioned that where this Legitify supports GitLab, but also check out Scorecard because there's some things that work with one or not the other. But it was a 50-minute talk. Seemed to be, people said that it was pretty good. So it was good to just kind of like cover that. I wasn't able, because I was also kind of like doing it from a lens of lessons that we had learned at F5. I also spoke about what we were doing there and where we were on that stage. And then the call to action at the end was to have people join this guide, and also told them that we'd be meeting next at this time. So that was kind of like a quick, and then also mentioned, as we had spoken about, that we'd probably like folks who had more GitLab expertise or experience to just come in and also chat. So that was it.
Any feedback that you received after the talk or during any discussion?
Feedback. Yes, I mean, a couple of people said that it was really good, and they kind of compared. In general, they compared the conference to last year's and said that this year's conference had a lot more media content in terms of things that are actionable. The crowd was, in general, for the overall conference, seemed pretty like scattered and not as bigger as previously one. It could be just budgetary reasons. So the crowd was not as big as usually is.
Yeah, I think I was speaking with Jory earlier in the week, and among other things, we were bemoaning the fact that in many places and many companies, the travel money faucet has been turned off. So that was certainly the case for me, and unfortunately. So we're all hoping that by September, when we have Open Source Summit Europe, that things kind of are starting to crawl back from that.
Yeah. Hopefully. Yeah, it almost seems like unless you're a speaker or something, most of the speakers got a chance to go, but it was harder for everyone else to be there. Yeah. And I submitted the same talk for EU for consideration. I just, in the hopes that something will change.
Right.
Yeah.
Has there been any other feedback that people have had or people have heard about the current state of the current state of things, the current approach, the current kind of like direction that we're going? Rob, have you heard anything from the exalted tech calls that you are, halls that you inhabit?
No, we actually, though, have the opportunity on May 30th to talk about the best working group. And if we had something interesting to share about this document, I'd be glad to pass that along. We're just doing a general working group update to the TAC and observers.
Yeah, I saw that you had a line item at least in there on this. That's great.
And just roughly, approximately when do we think we will have a done-ish document we would be proud to share with the world?
Yeah, I think now that things have settled in, come back to normal, at least hopefully on my side, I should be able to power through more, and I'm focusing in more on that as well internally. So at least for me, I think it'll be easy within the next week. I do believe next couple of days I will be able to get that PR in. But then our next meeting is not until 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
And if there is need, we can definitely meet more frequently. That's not I just don't want to abuse people's time. I know that volunteering isn't necessarily the top of your organization's priorities.
Yeah, I can meet in between the weeks if we need to move it.
Yeah, me too.
Me too. We can do so. I can do something next week on this time slot. If you're Christine, if you think that would be useful. What I was thinking was, because I think what your PR is adding a bunch of not editorial, but more content basically from your F5 documents into the structure that we currently have, right? And I think
That's
that
correct.
it would be really beneficial to review that in a group. So maybe we should do a call next week at this time.
Yeah, I'm available next week at this time.
So we have two options. You all could we could reuse this Zoom link and make our own personal little calendar invites. Or I could ask operations to change the meeting invite with a high likelihood that something will get broken.
I'm a little worried about just doing a personal invite but I mean, we could do that.
And we could like basically the Zoom link is active, so it'll work. And what we could do is send a note to the mailing list and use in Slack to make sure
Yes.
people are aware.
Yeah.
But just statistically, there's a 95% probability something will get temporarily or permanently broken if I ask operations to change the calendar entry.
Would we be able to do an hour earlier next week, actually, if we were to do this next week?
It's open source. You can do anything.
I know. How many people could make an hour? Because the problem is that next week, this time slot is also the end user working group, which I also participate in. So just looking at my calendar. Let me
I could.
Okay, all right. So special session.
I probably can't do it an hour earlier, but I could. Yeah, I can. There's another meeting I go to, which is an hour earlier.
By the
Let-
way, I think if you could open a Slack channel, like a private Slack channel for this group to talk like more frequently about the document, it might be a good idea.
That's super easy. I can ask about that right now. We might have that before the end of the day.
Amazing. So we could just share ideas and editing.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Super idea. Let me go send a note.
So let me put something in the calendar for next Friday, sorry, for next Thursday. I'm going to use the email addresses that are in the minutes as people to invite, and I'll just do it as a off the calendar invite thing. And we can use that as a review step. And then we can have something we can therefore have something to present back to the group. The following week. Okay.
Okay.
Is that all we can cover today, or do we want to? Are there other business?
I think we plan to create a roadmap today. Like, what are the next steps?
Okay. That's great. Let's do that.
Let's do that.
Okay.
So let's just throw ideas. What are everything we need to do, and then
Yeah.
prioritize them.
Yeah.
What next week?
I'm writing in the doc, in the minutes doc, so we can do some scratch pad in there, and then we can lift it out into something else if necessary. Right. So to do items. So we can have Steen's PR, which will add additional material into the existing document tree, right?
Mhm.
And then what else have we got? So what else would you like to see added to that roadmap? No.
I think we need to deduplicate some of the policies. We have some overlapping between GitHub and GitLab.
I think so. So you're saying that there are some right now. There's some duplicate entries in the list. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that something that you want to do? That you think we should do manually using PRs at this point?
Either way, we can go over it together, or maybe like I can do it offline as well.
I mean, it's I guess the question is, I kind of feel like we should if we want to change the way that the content is being generated, then we should do that first before Christine adds her PR. Or we could simply work on the documents in the current state that they're in right now. I guess what I'm thinking is that we kind of freeze the README files, but the singleton best practice files themselves, each one of the individual principles can be regenerated at any point out of Legitify data, and that we simply we keep the README files. We kind of not freeze them, but we start managing them through GitHub, through the PR process, rather than regenerating those files. Does that make sense? Okay. Right. So that way, if you make a change to the data, we can regenerate that singleton page or whatever it is, or all of those pages, but we don't have to go back and reapply changes to the index files, to the README files, unless we're adding a new thing. Yeah,
it sounds good. And then we'll see all the diffs in the pull request. So basically,
yeah, exactly. So the other thing that came to mind was what was it?
sorry.
I'm trying to remember what I had something in my head about another kind of like a work item that we need to do. Oh yeah, no, it's no, never mind, actually, because I think that we've kind of I was going to talk about how we could do some kind of templating system that would allow, for the READMEs, but I don't know if we really need to do that at this point. I think we can just kind of evolve the each README file and add editorial content, and then that will eventually become the first cut of what we can show to the to the TAC and to other parts of the organization, and eventually start talking about so I think that's what, and any other kind of things, work items that we need to kind of consider.
So just to clarify, the PR I'll be doing, it's just initially or last time we had spoken about, I would do a PR so that you could see, look at the structure to see how that would fit into the auto-generated stuff. And then at that time, you're talking about the templating, but you don't think we will need that right away.
Well, I'm just not sure if we, because just talking through it just now, if we don't if we're not going to regenerate the README files, then I don't think we will need kind of fancy, you know, templating system. I think we can. I mean, if we're happy with the structure as it is, then then or how it looks rather, then I think, you know, it's at some point where, you know, if we add a third source code management system, for instance, then or if we add significant new coverage or new principles, then we are going to need to regenerate some or all of those lists of the lists of links to the individual principles. But I think if we're just making changes here and there, we can do it using the PR, using GitHub PRs.
Okay.
Christine, what will your PR cover?
Repeat that again, please.
What are you going to add in the PR? What content?
It's going to be more like context before some of the sections, for example, introducing, like for organizations, it could just be talking generically about why some of the things are important. So think of it as like context setting.
Okay, it's going to be on the main document or in the subsection?
It could be in the main document and it could also be in the subsections.
Okay, thanks. So maybe we can use the next meeting to just, I think that going over the section together, maybe
Yes.
editing together could be very beneficial. So it sounds that our roadmap is very short. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think
We
so.
get someone from target audience to maybe look at the document that we are preparing, see if they have some comments, or do we want to first have a good first draft and then do that?
I think getting someone from the target audience to review is, I think that we want to have the first draft with editorial changes and additional material.
Yeah, makes sense.
Then,
But that's,
yeah, sorry.
now I was just saying that's a good idea. As you were talking, Avishai, I was trying to see if I could remember any people who are in the audience to see if I could tap them, but that might be an interesting idea.
Generally, those would be folks who are working at OSPOs or like.
Yes.
Yes, okay. I can get folks from our org to do that.
Yeah.
But whenever we are ready, right?
I mean, I can actually, if we're having a call next week, and as I said, it's right before the end user working group call, I can actually ask the end user working group to put this on the agenda and use that as a contact group to get some feedback from them. The other thing that Christine, that I wanted to ask you about was the other part of the document that you originally shared had operations information, which doesn't really isn't in the scope of the Legitify data, but it was additional information about that covers the roles that might be played by operations in managing source code management systems. And is that something that you're hoping to add as well in this PR or in a subsequent PR?
That's a good question, because typically, yeah, that is a good question, because typically it's one of the things that people need to think about, but it may not be within the scope. It's something to discuss. And actually, if we were going to have the meeting, since the meeting that I was going to attend at the same time of just before the end users group is with a bunch of OSPOs, like a community of practice for OSPOs, and it would have been a really good place to see that as well. Because that meeting happens like the hour before the end users group. And so that's another place, but I could also put it in the Slack channel, but putting it in front of people might have been a better idea as well. And they meet every 2 weeks. And if I don't catch them on that time slot, it's probably going to be 4 weeks from now, because every 2 weeks it's at a different time zone. But that's another possibility I can share within the group as well on the Slack channel. It's called To Do group. But the operations thing, it might be it's probably situational to a particular OSPO, so it might not be like relevant, but it could be called out somewhere, like if you're doing some kind of operations, these are things that you might think about if you're setting up something new. But I don't know if it belongs to that document entirely. It's one of those things we could ask an OSPO. I know for us it was important.
Okay, so I kind of minuted it as a to-do item in the roadmap.
Yeah, I mean, we could still have it in the bigger README and say, if you're an OSPO, you might need an operations section that pulls it all together without spelling it out.
Yeah. Okay. Other thoughts? I think we might want to just close up and meet it, and we can collect. Thanks, Probe, for getting the channel set up. WG best practices SCM.
Very welcome.
So let's continue to collaborate there, and then we can chat next week. I will send out a meeting invite momentarily, and I'll also just notify that channel that we're going to be doing that, and we're going to meet on this same Zoom link. And in the meantime, we can collaborate in that channel. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Cool.
Thanks.
Thanks all.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers.